culture. Sutra 2, either you manage culture or culture manages you. Who likes to give an explanation of this? Yes.
By default, we will behave, and then whatever behavior that creates, whatever norms that people create, creates some kind of culture, and then that becomes dominant. So if we don't make some endeavor to create that culture, there will be a culture that manifests, and we'll have to adjust to it.
Yeah, in other words, either you take an active role in what people do, think, believe in what mental models are there. Are you okay with the mental models which are there? Are you okay with the priorities? Are you okay with what's being done? Huh? Do you really believe that this is the best this temple or this zone can do? Do you really believe that this is the best type of people we can recruit? This is the best website we can have? In other words, this is it. Whatever happens, whatever exists, this is it. So if you believe that, obviously, whatever happens, whatever assumptions are already existing, they'll shape what you do, what you think. So either the existing situation, and by existing situation I mean both mental, theoretical, and practical. Either the situation dominates you and it shapes what you do, the programs you do, the initiatives you finance, the things you talk about, and so on, or you take a look and say, we are not thinking in the right way in this thing. We need to change it. Parabhakti.
Any religion has inside is
every religion
has is inside is esoteric aspect, no? The inner aspect, and we have the exoteric aspect, how to express this religion. So in most of the religion nowadays, because they put much more attention to the exoteric aspect,
the external
part, they become a culture, and it means they lose what is the real aspect. So the culture is managing them.
Yeah.
And this is a big risk also in our movement.
It's
also a big risk in our movement, also this.
Please elaborate. As a risk in our movement?
It's a risk because, if we, as we just was discussing the other days, that Prabhupada said that in a different place of the world we have to adjust, something, because it is not at India. You don't have to become everyone Indians. And we see that something happened because we are not really able to enter in the culture. We don't bring the hidden message in the world. And most of the temple in the world, we have Indians that are joining the temple because they are joining mainly because of their culture. So it's a big topic, but it's happening in many religions. No? So they lose the inner part, the really inner part of the culture. The culture is managing them, so the exoteric aspects, they are becoming relevant, too much relevant, that the other part is just forgotten, has been forgotten.
You can hear? He's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, basically he's saying that in many religions, what the external aspects of the culture, the external, the visible aspect, the exoteric, the ceremonies, the rituals, the dress and the music and the style of food and this and that becomes prominent. And it's taken as, this is the religion. This is the religion. These manifestation, external manifestations. And so when that happens, this is an example of, is the culture, the way things are done in a certain way, in a certain tradition, manages you. And often may be a very detrimental effect, because you get stuck in things. In other words, you start mistaking the detail for the principle. You start the external for the essential. And then you become irrelevant because you're attached to certain things that don't mean anything in a certain area, and then you become irrelevant. I'll give you an example. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. He took sannyas from a Shankarite guru, right? And it makes sense because at that time, first of all, basically the Shankarites, they had monopoly over sannyas, basically, okay? But because sannyas had meaning at that time. In India, 500 years ago, also nowadays, but much less, 500 years ago, being a sannyasi, you are somebody. You are an authority. You're somebody to be listened to. Okay? Now, the principle is not sannyas. The principle is to be influential. Like Anuruddha Prabhu was saying this morning. The principle is to be listened to, right? Now, if you move forward to 21st century, say America, what's more influential? A Hindu monk going around with a stick, or say, for instance, having a PhD from a respected university? What's more influential? Probably the PhD. In other words, if you say, I'm a Hindu monk, good for you. You know, okay, you're a Hindu monk, good. But, you know, I'm not Hindu, what do I care? You follow? But a PhD, as this is just an example, a PhD from a respected university, Harvard, Princeton, and so on, in the mind of people, has that level of authority that sannyas had 500 years ago. So the principle is to be respectable in society. This is just an example. Just like Vaishnavas don't like to take sannyas from a Mayavadi, right? we don't like the idea, okay? But it was a technique, it was used successfully. Okay? So there are certain things we may also not like, but if they're good for preaching, we may want to accept them. And I'm not preaching, please, now don't say Kaunteya Das said everybody should get a PhD from Princeton. I didn't say that. I'm just giving an example that the same activity, external activity, the behavior, taking sannyas in India, 16th century, is different than taking sannyas in Sweden, 21st century. You can't expect the same impact because the language is different. The cultural language is different. It's okay? So, am I interpreting what you said in a proper way? Assumptions, yeah.
You become relevant only for the people that are around you, and you miss this point.
You become relevant only for the people who are around you, and you become relevant only for the people who have already accepted your religion. And for those who have not accepted your religion, doesn't make any difference who you are within the religion, because they have not accepted your package. So, okay? Okay? So, let's see, what comes next? Bhagavad Gita. Who likes to read that? You don't like to read Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is still okay in the 21st century. Yes.
Trividha karma chodana. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action.
Okay. Jnanam means knowledge. In this case, basically means relative knowledge, because next verse, 19th verse, Krishna explained that there is jnanam in the three modes of nature. So here we are not talking about adhyatma jnana, spiritual knowledge. We're talking about what people accept as knowledge. Okay? What people accept as valid information. So this is not absolute jnana. It basically means the assumptions of people. What people assume to be true. Okay? The beliefs of people, you could say. Jnanam here means the beliefs of people. So, Krishna says that where karma comes from, where action comes from. First, there are these three steps. There is some assumption, there is something that people think is valid knowledge, they have a worldview, there's some ideas about reality, then the object of knowledge, and then the knower. And then Krishna will explain both knowledge and the knower, they are in the three gunas. So basically, according to the culture of somebody, they will do certain action. For some people, to eat dogs is perfectly normal. Their father was eating dogs, their grandfather was eating dogs, the neighbor is eating dogs, the president of the country is eating dogs. So eating dogs is perfectly normal. What's the problem with eating dogs? Nobody ever planted the doubt that there was something wrong. So eating dogs is fine. It's time for lunch. I'm hungry. Let's cook a dog. See, there is and there are hundreds of millions of people who think and do that just next door in China. I'm not talking science fiction. I'm talking next door. Hot dogs is a different thing. Hot dogs is pig meat, by the way. You know. Okay. So again, the person has some. See, this is the Bhagavad Gita verse. This is the genesis of action, and is based on assumptions. Okay. Can you read that?
Which one?
I mean, can you see that? This is 18:18, same verse, full verse. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivates action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. Okay? There are three kinds of impetus for daily work. Daily work, like management, that's daily work, right? How we run the movement. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower, the instruments of work. The work itself and the worker are called the constituents of work. Any work done by any human being has three elements. Before one acts, there is some impetus, which is called inspiration. Any solution arrived at before work is actualized in a subtle form of work. Then work takes the form of action. First, one has to undergo the psychological process of thinking, feeling, and willing. And that is called impetus. The inspiration to work is the same if it comes from the scripture or from the instruction of the spiritual master. When the inspiration is there and the worker is there, then actual activity takes place by the help of the senses, including the mind, which is the center of all the senses. The sum total of all constituents of an activity is called the accumulation of work. Okay, so we think, we feel, and then we decide to act. We will. And look at ISKCON. Look at ISKCON in India, for instance. There are many temples, and again, the philosophy is the same, theology is the same, founder chart is the same, but they act in different ways. Some temples, for instance, in one sense, the main thing is to make patron members, life members. That's like the main thing. Main thing. That's the main thing that the temple does. And some temple completely don't do any life membership. Zero. They don't even think of doing it. You see what I'm saying? Obviously, there are different assumptions. There are different mental models of what it means to be ISKCON, to the mission of ISKCON, how to maintain a temple. They have different ideas. Now, I'm not necessarily saying one is right and one is wrong, but it's a different way of thinking, have a different sense of identity. And because of these different models, they see the preaching and they see their role in society in different ways. So, back to the point, there is a dominating idea in your temple, in your city, in your country. There's a dominating idea. Either you wish to take a look and say, is this what we want to think? This is the best way to think? It's the most productive? Maybe it was best 20 years ago, but it's not best anymore. So either you take an active role in shaping those values, or those values will just carry you like a river. You're just being swept away. This is the way we do, Prabhu. This is how we do, Prabhu. I have a concept for your consideration. It's not Shastra, but take a look. The only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. If you do not manage culture, it manages you. And you may not even be aware of the extent to which this is happening. Because it's all encompassing. It's all around you. It's inside you. So you may not even know what's happening. It's just happening. Okay, so culture beginnings and the impact of founders as leaders. And founders, they use the same terminology. Founder could be the Ford Motors, or could be a country, Turkey, Ataturk, or the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, but it works the same. It's just the way culture is established. There are three sources: the beliefs, values, and assumptions of the founders. In this case, Srila Prabhupada, obviously. Okay? What he believed in, what his values, what he thought was important, and so on and so forth. His sense of identity, his worldview. Okay? Everybody should surrender to Krishna ultimately. Okay? So that's first source. Second source, learning experiences of group members. The movement goes on. We learn different things, what works, what doesn't work. We need to survive, we need to expand. What's successful, what's not successful. I give you an example. The first generations of guru, the zonal acharyas, for instance, basically they tried to replicate what Srila Prabhupada was doing. He was the acharya of the movement, and basically that's what the type of leadership they were familiar with. So they tried to replicate that. But now we know that model doesn't work. That model doesn't work, so we rejected that model. So we experience and we learn from our experience. So it's a dynamic thing. And third, new beliefs, values, and assumptions brought by new members. We all carry some luggage. We all carry some baggage. Sometimes it's good baggage. We might already been, say, disciplined or say, clean. Or, for instance, in the first wave of ISKCON members, there were hippies. So definitely the hippiness pervaded ISKCON. And it still pervades ISKCON. It still influences ISKCON. The hippie way of life, or the hippie way of seeing things. See, in the 70s, the main people joining ISKCON were hippies, 60s, early 70s, right? Now, main people say, in the West or in India, is basically who? IT professionals or IT students, right? Definitely they bring a different baggage. It's a different mentality. And that shapes the culture, obviously. Yes?
Prabhu, can you just give us some examples of what you mean by the hippie culture still pervading ISKCON?
Well, you see, hippies, for instance, they didn't like organization, okay? They just rejected organization. And so the movement tended to be disorganized and still tends to be very much disorganized. If you see how other world religions or other institutions, non-profit, take care of certain, say for instance, data collection, okay? What they want to learn about themselves. A lot of that we don't have in ISKCON because some of our leaders, they never worked like that. They never taught like that. They never, to be a hippie, you don't need much data collection. It's a pretty spontaneous thing. Maximum, you need to know who is selling the best drugs and the cheapest ones and which tree is best to sleep under. That's all the data collection you need. Or where there is free food. And in San Francisco, 68 happened to be free food at the Hare Krishna temple. Okay, so those who join there, great souls, no, we are not talking about spiritual, we're not talking about the Swarupa or the spiritual value of those souls. I'm just saying the culture that they brought, the way they lived life, it did reflect and is still reflecting on how the movement is managed. It's just an approach to life. No? I mean, Srila Prabhupada, you all read Lilamrita, when Srila Prabhupada had to sit down with Shyama Sundar Express and to do accounts. Huh? This much comes in, this much goes out, you write it at the bottom, right? Now we have so many accountants joining the movement, we don't have to, it's not that the sannyasi, Bhakti-Rasamrita Maharaj need to sit with an accountant and see this is who comes in, it comes out. It doesn't need anymore. But that time, even that was needed. Even that was needed. Okay, you got the... And it's not a condemnation. Here we are interested, again, it's a historical analysis, what influences a movement. Huh? And that was was and is a very strong influence on our movement, definitely. Okay, so the impact of founder is most important. Organizations do not form spontaneously or accidentally. The process of culture formation is a process of creating a small group, single person founder as idea. And again, this was not written for ISKCON, but we kept it basically the same because it maps ISKCON, it describes ISKCON, okay? The single person founder as an idea, in this case, bringing the Sankirtan movement to the West. Huh? Now, in this case was an order of his spiritual master, was a prediction of Lord Chaitanya himself, so it was not coming from nothing. There is a major tradition, the whole vision of Vyasadeva, seeing Krishna in the spiritual world and writing the Bhagavatam and so on. I mean, there is obviously a major background, but there is a single person. Then, founder brings in one or more people and creates a core group. They share vision and believe in the risk. 26 2nd Avenue. There are a few people, the Brahmanandas, the Umapatis, the Gargamunis, that they believed in what this Swamiji was saying. The Hayagrivas, they believed. Okay. And they started identifying as we are the followers of the Swami. And we are not going to believe in the risk. They were not looking for security in the material system. Like Satswarup, at the time Satswarup Das, Stephen Guarino, he was the only one with a job, right? He was a social worker. And, he was steady in his life, but he believed in the risk. He joined. He became, temple president in Boston, this and that. Then he took sannyas. So the founder creates a small group of believers who believe the same thing. Then the founding groups acts in concert, raises money, workspace. Workspace means, in this case, temples. Huh? Temple in New York, temple in San Francisco, temple in Boston, Montreal, Santa Fe, Los Angeles, and so on. And then others are brought in and a history is begun. The history, in our case, that you read in the Lilamrita. Jet Age, Parivrajacharya, and all that type of things. Okay. But this is how every movement, you take Buddhism, you take Christianity, any movement starts like this. There's a founder, there are a few original followers, then they bring, then they start acting in a somewhat organized way, or at least collective way, and they bring more and more and more people, and the history is begun. Is that clear? It satisfies you intellectually? Does it tally with your observation? Okay. These are images which are burnt into our collective psyche. The Jaladuta. Then Srila Prabhupada in the Bowery, okay, with nothing, surrounded by crazy people. And the Bowery, that's the scene. And then the Second Avenue. This is a picture of Srila Prabhupada taken in the little courtyard behind the storefront. How many of you been to 26 Second Avenue? Okay. Then again, followers. He was lecturing. This is 26 Second Avenue. This was the Radha Krishna painting done by Haridas, Harvey Cohen. No, stylized Radha Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada was lecturing. He was doing an arctic. People didn't know what on earth he was doing. They were calling the arctic bells. So Swami is doing the bells. That's all because that's, they had no clue. Then he would speak Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Again, some followers, Kirtanananda is there. Some followers start doing a kirtan, Sankirtan, Tompkins Square Park. Break the American silence. Bring this message. And some people come. And these people, this is Bali Mardan, and this is Upendra. These were the first to come to Australia with nothing. Mridanga, few BTG, and pericartals. And they followed the same thing of what the Swamiji was doing in Tompkins Square Park. They believed in the risk to go to a new continent with nothing, no context, nothing. And what you'll do the same thing. You go under a tree and chant Hare Krishna. And then, of course, because of that effort, more people came. Then Aniruddha Prabhu came, and then he became temple president of Melbourne. And, and so many things happened. Now there are temples, there are things. Huh? No, don't think so. He's asking if it's you on the right. No, probably not. He was 12 years old. That's not you, no. Okay, so this is the history, how it begins. But then, because we bring baggage, some of the baggage is compatible, some of the baggage is not compatible. Then you have some leaders who have problems, okay? How many of you have heard about Kirtanananda Swami and his dog? How many of you heard? Okay, some of you heard. So, some people, we start inserting ideas that were not necessarily in line. And this is just an example. We could have the whole gallery, okay? This is just an example because we bring our own culture, our own assumptions, and our own ideas of what's actually Krishna consciousness or how Krishna consciousness should be spread or whatever. Go ahead. So, either you manage culture or culture manages you. Any quick comment or quick question? Sutra 2. Yes?
I think that this phenomena is very visible in temples or communities where there...
Which phenomena?
This phenomena, either you manage culture or culture manages you. If there's been a lack of, in particular, a lack of leadership in a community, and that becomes quite obvious, it's tangible.
Yeah. Yeah, in other words, this is the way we do things here. And that's the way we do things here. Is the best way? Well, we never stop and think of it, but that's the way we do. And somehow we are surviving and, Okay.